y'all, welcome and welcome back. And if you are new here, my name is Morgan and I do all things spooky here. So today we're going to be reading some scary stories that you guys sent in to me, but I also talk about Appalachian folklore, really folklore from around the world at this point. We talk about scary movies, scary books, we do scary TikTok countdowns. It's a fun time if I do say so myself, and if that sounds good to you, I would love to have you subscribe and stay with me for a while. Now, like I said, we are going to be reading stories that you guys sent in to me today, so if you have any you would like for me to read, please send them to the email in the description. You will also find my other social medias there. You'll find like exactly how to put the email. You got to put some certain keywords in it so I know where to read it. You'll find it all below. But without further ado, let's get right on into these stories. Also, I did tell you guys yesterday, I am extremely sick. I'm going to try my best. My voice does not sound the best. It's not going to be pleasing to listen to. I know that. This might not be as long of a video as I want it to be, but if I talk for too long, my voice just starts going. And I've already been filming. I've been filming for TikTok and Patreon already. So it's the last video I've got to film for the day. And we're going to hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So if this video is not as long as I need for it to be, hopefully the one later this week, because I'm doing 2 of these this week, will be longer. And I'll just add the stories that I don't read from this one into that one. I hope you enjoy hearing how my dad's first home was possessed by demons. I don't have any pictures because I was younger and didn't have a phone. My dad bought this house when he went to inspect it. The second we got there, I looked at him and said, "Dad, something is wrong." And he just brushed it off as a creative imagination. Well, he buys it, and I often woke up in different rooms or facing unnatural ways. This is when I experienced what I thought was my first sleep paralysis demon, but it wasn't. So I wake up one night in just pure panic, a terror so unfathomable to those who haven't experienced it, yet I can't explain it. But I saw a tall, pale gray, white creature reach around the door. It was a good 7 to 8 feet tall. The eyes glowed red and its veins were black. Its nails ended in points like claws and it had long teeth. It stood there for a few and then it vanished, leaving a small smoke cloud. The next morning I wake up and go to use the bathroom connected to my room. It had claw marks on the door frame. Me and my brother both saw the same thing. We can even still describe it to each other 2 years later. We had night terrors so vivid that they gave me PTSD. The most common one was this room that we called the big room. In one of my night terrors, it caught on fire. I'm used to those, but this one was no escape. I could feel my flesh burning. I was burning alive in that night terror. You would fall asleep and wake up in the dark room, and then you would feel a hot breath down your neck, and all you could do was run. No matter how fast or far you went, it was always there. There was another one seen frequently, too, by me and my brother. I forgot to mention earlier that me and my brother are sidekicks. Well, it was like a woman with rotting flesh. A tattered, ripped dress, long black hair, normal right arm, and a really long left arm where the bone ended in a point. It was over 15 feet tall, had gray skin with her jaw broken and dangling down. She had sockets for eyes and teeth that looked like they were filed down with nail files into points. My brother turns the corner from one of our hallways and was facing its back. It turns to look at him. It tried to take a step forward and tapped its pointed arm that drove on the ground into the floor with a bit of force. My brother thought he was dreaming until my dad asked what happened to the floor and there was an indent right where it was. I also have a night terror when I was in the kitchen. Picture this. There's 2 doors leading into the big room. They weigh probably 150 pounds apiece and face the kitchen. While I was standing in the kitchen, I hear a loud bang. I duck just in time before getting decapitated by the doors. In the doorway, there's a thick smoke, a purple glow coming from it. That same night, my brother had the exact dream, except he was on the couch. I was home alone one day and I heard someone walking across the floor heavily. I thought it was my dad, so I go into the living room. Standing on the stairs was a ghost who, while alive, wasn't known for being nice. We called him Jack the Farmer. There was often pre-recognition and other less intense things, but now I hate being too close to fire. I have insomnia because of how often I saw the first demon I described, and PTSD from the vivid dreams about burning alive. This is all true stories, and I tried explaining it to the best of my abilities. I hope you enjoy. I'm currently living in a home that's at least not possessed by demons. Well, this story is from a town that I go to frequently because it has my closest 7 brew. This is going to be scary. I fear this is going to be terrifying for me. I'm 23 and live in Kingsport, Tennessee. I followed you for quite a time now and have loved your videos and content. I've been contemplating sending you in my story, but figured I should. Maybe you have some tips once I know you and your husband have also experienced a mimic. So this all began for me about a month and a half ago, and since it all started, it's heightened in activity. I'm a firm believer in mimics, skinwalkers, spirits, demons, etc. However, my significant other is not. My significant other and I have had heavier conversations because I used to deal with a mimic that would play itself as my deceased sister. I would hear her screaming for me, calling my name across the house. My significant other seems to believe that it's my mind playing tricks on me and that it's just because I was missing my sister. The activity I was experiencing died down a lot and completely stopped when I moved out of my home and back with him in August. This is a conversation we've had several times where he's told me that they weren't real. Flash forward about a month and I'm dead asleep as he comes rushing into the bedroom. He was playing his game on the couch at around 3 in the morning, as always. He heard me scream his name like I needed help. I told him I was asleep and it wasn't me. He told me, "Oh, you were probably having a nightmare. It had to be you." About a week ago, he apparently hears me say hello beside of him while we were getting air in his tire. I was sitting in the car and heard nothing. I've tried to tell him over and over to stop targeting whatever it is, and he will not listen. It's starting to target me as well, and I feel like it's probably the same one I've been dealing with prior. So right around 2.5 weeks ago, I was sitting in my bedroom, and I heard my significant other call from the living room. "Hey, Allie?" I got up and walked in there thinking he'd come home from work, but he was not in the living room. I checked my phone to see it was 3 hours before he'd be getting off. I've heard it cackling like him, calling my name while I'm in the shower, knocking, scratching, and banging while I'm in the room showering. My final straw was a few weeks ago. I turned my back to the wall in the kitchen and saw my significant other's shoulder in the back of him as he rounded the bathroom. It, however, was not my significant other. He went to work. I left immediately for the night and had him stay with me elsewhere when he got off. The thing is taunting me. I hear it walking behind me when I leave home at night. I hear it running around in the field outside of where I park my car. It screams and whistles from outside, and when I enter my car to leave at night, I always have to speed to my car and I keep eyes forward while I hear it gaining on me from behind. I've managed to catch it on video once by mistake. This was just last night. I sent my brother a Snapchat and he responded telling me he thought my boyfriend was at work, and I said, "He is, what do you mean?" He texted me back and called me immediately and said, "Who the hell is that behind you in the living room with that video?" He screen recorded and slowed down the video, and by God, you can see my boyfriend in the doorway for a split few seconds. Only it's not him, and he's facing away from me staring at the door. I have no peace right now. I'm terrified of everything. I feel like I'm being watched constantly. I'm crying right now as I type this out to you because I just know it's here and it watches everything. This thing's getting more and more active as the weeks or days pass by, and I just do not know what else it's capable of. All of that above is what I've sent in before, so this now is my update. It has continued. I don't acknowledge it and I hide any sort of fear that I may have because they feed off of it. I have a spirit that's followed me from my past few apartments. I picked him up in an old apartment I lived in around 5 years ago, and he's followed me since. He doesn't bother me, and I call him my shadow man. He's harmless. He just appears in places as a very large shadow, and I was terrified at first, but I've grown accustomed to him being around. He'll move things, tap things, and you can hear him walking around, but he's harmless. But the thing is, the thing I fear has chased him off. There's been no activity from that spirit whom has followed me for a couple of weeks now, and that's not usual. The mimic's getting more active. My significant other is also starting to fear it and is coming around to be real. He and I are not sleeping at night. I sleep some, but he's staying up until it's daylight outside and then sleeping maybe 4 to 5 hours before work. My significant other has begun staying up all night beginning a week ago. He was sitting on his laptop beside of me while I slept. I woke to him shaking me and putting his finger over his mouth to shush me. There was whistling coming from under the window beside the bed. We have a camera outside and he panned the camera to our window and nothing was there. He told me he started seeing me when I'm not around, just in quick glances, and he knows it looks like me. He constantly hears me speaking when I'm not home. He does respond to it, and he feels watched his whole drive home from work. He said he believes he's seeing glances of me around the wooded areas when he's driving home. This thing is adamant, and I'm not sure what I can do to stop it. I can't sit in the living room to do my diamond art like I used to when he's working because the energy's heavy. I get horrible feelings at work. I have to take the trash out to the back room at night and all of the lights are off and my heart races. I feel like it's lurking and waiting for me to stop too long. I quickly throw everything and rush out. I'm sorry these are so long. This alone has been so long it doesn't even begin to describe everything nor the actual level of activity. So that's around the same intensity that it got from me. I was catching it on camera. Here's the thing, and you live really close to me. You don't have to take me up on this. I would be happy to help you do a cord cutting ritual because that is literally the only thing that has helped me. That and some strong banishments and cleansings. But here's the thing, especially if you already have spirits around you, and this is what I'm dealing with right now. The spirits around you that want your attention see you giving so much of your time, energy, and attention to a mimic that when you get rid of it, you are still going to be dealing with this shit because the spirits will start doing it because they know it gets your attention. So even though I am quite positive that mimic has gone out of my life, I still will see my husband when he's not around. I'll still hear his voice and vice versa for him and me as well. So it's a thing that you're going to have to deal with forever. You're going to have to constantly stay on top of cleansings and banishments and protections because it's just a thing now. But with that being said, definitely for a mimic, do cord cutting rituals, do banishments, and do cleansings. Put some protections on yourselves. I don't know your spiritual beliefs, but if you're comfortable with rituals, I highly recommend that. My mimic passed to my father. They kind of bounce. It's literally like a virus. It bounced to my father. My dad's heavily religious, does not want any rituals done or anything like that. And he's still dealing with it. And he will continue dealing with it because I swear I think that's the only thing that works. But keep me updated. Let me know. It sounds like the tall shadow figure that you're seeing is probably Protector. And that would make sense on why it got ran off by this malevolent force. Mimics are no joke. They are terrifying. They take your life force from you, I swear. I could feel every bit of me draining while that was happening, and it's not fun. With that being said, though, I don't think you sent the video to me, but if you're comfortable showing me that Snapchat, I would love to see that. The thing that's kind of like a giveaway if it's a mimic or not is when you see the other person, you will only see the back of them. You will never see their face. They haven't perfected those details yet, so that kind of gives it away that it's a mimic. But please keep me updated. You're in my thoughts. If you need help, let me know. Like I said, you're very close. I'm always in Kingsport at 7 Brew, so just let me know. Sometime around 6th or 7th grade, I was picking berries with my 2 little cousins on the side of my great uncle's property, and something threw a rock near my ankles, or at least it sounded like that. I couldn't find it, but when I turned around, there was this pretty pale girl with long curly hair and the color of a number 2 pencil. She had a long cream dress with lettuce trim edges for her long sleeves that fit to her arms. The dress looked old, like over 100 years old style. She looked to be around the same age as me. She had her hands in her lap and was sitting on a branch that any real human wouldn't be able to sit on because it was hanging too low. She looked at me, and for some reason I had no reaction. I saw her at least 2 other times that day, but each time she was just running. I tried to chase her, but she'd already disappeared. When I get home, I'm doing dishes while my mother was at the other end of the house, and she whispered my name in my ear in the most beautiful voice, but I got so scared that I sprinted to my mom. Since then, I was able to see and hear things that you shouldn't be able to. It would always be a shadow in the corner of my eye. The voice that I could make out were always someone that I knew. They'd be calling my name, but the ones I couldn't were the voices that I didn't recognize, whispering things that I could never make out. Over the years, it got more intense and unsettling. I brought up the girl to my mother. She said she saw that same girl at a younger age than I was. She saw her in the same area and said she brought it up to her dad and that he had told her sternly to never go out in that area ever again, and in my opinion, he knew something and was scared about it. She told me once when she was little that a demon picked her up by the neck and tried breaking her back as she asked for God or Jesus and it stopped. I kind of think that was the same entity. When I was around 17 years old, the thing was significantly stronger and fed off of me so much that I almost went insane. I was cracking my fingers literally every 3 to 5 seconds and constantly looking over my shoulder. I hated being around my mother, and I'd sneak out after dark to not feel so trapped, but that thing would follow. It was a dark shadow that I could see, even if it was pitch black outside, so I nicknamed it Black Shadow. One night I was, especially for lack of better words, bossy. I was alone and it was 9 p.m., and I ran to my mother's chair because it was the only place that felt safe from it, and the negative energy was so strong. This thing kept speaking to me in my ear, changing its voice, and while I was in the chair, it switched its voice to a British man and said, "I'm gonna, you." Each word kind of changing tone, and then it laughed. Later, I was able to go to the church elders and tell them what was going on and ask them to help me get rid of it. They said yes and gathered in my room and told me to say this special prayer. I've never heard of it before, but it worked, and I stopped seeing it. But it took 2 days for that feeling of its presence to go away. I'm assuming the residual energy from it being attached so long. It left me alone for about 2 years. I stopped thinking about it, and then I got my first job when I was 19, and at some point I started seeing a shadow in the corner of my eye. I tried to play it off like I didn't notice, but then while walking to the sink, it said, "Are you okay?" And no one was around. This was a 3rd shift job. I brushed it off and put my headphones in when I was done, and through my headphones while the music was playing, it said, "I'm sorry." Both those things are pretty odd for a negative entity to say, but given the fact that they aren't the kind of things that have a change of heart, I assumed it was some kind of manipulation tactic. I told it to leave me alone or I'd get rid of it the way I did last time, and it left me alone for the rest of the night. When I went to sleep that morning after work, I had a weird dream. I've had many weird demon-themed dreams, but this is the only one where I'm 100% sure that it was an actual demon that entered my dream. It was tall, around 7 to 8 feet, skin color of caramel coffee and black hair. His eyes were pink and blood red. His teeth, they had so many, and every single one of them were thin and sharp, kind of like how vampire fangs are portrayed to look like. He had 2 others just like him behind him, and I knew he was the one that had been haunting me this whole time. He told me in the least reassuring way that I shouldn't be afraid, and then gave the most sadistic "I want to eat you" smile I've ever seen, and then he left me alone and I haven't heard or seen from him, and it's been 8 years. Sometimes I wonder if it's a family curse, like if someone of my ancestors did wrong and it was attached to the family. Why would my grandpa be so adamant that my mom not step foot in that area I went to, and how did he know this thing? I still wonder about him saying that he was gonna me. If he can't touch me, does he still have the power to do that? Would he be able to drive me to do it, or was it just a bluff meant to bring out the energy that would give me power? You know what? We're gonna read one more story because I picked another one and it's really short and I think my voice is okay for now. I'm sorry, guys. I know I sound like I gargled gravel. I'm so sorry. I've been watching a video of yours and this story popped back into my head like amnesia wall that collapsed or a box of forgotten memories opened in my head. I've actually heard that happens quite a lot with my stories, like it'll just spark a memory. I'm really sorry for that. So I thought I'd tell you this tale since I survived. I live in Poland and the story happened when I was around 16. I was coming back from a gathering in the park in the middle of November and it had gotten very dark. Too dark for the middle of the city if you ask me. I was walking down the neighborhood pretty close to my house when I noticed a weird looking man. He was very skinny and tall and just kind of fake looking. I didn't really care about him that much at first because I try to never look at people. You can get beaten for that thing around here. So I just start walking by this guy and all of a sudden a cat pops out of a nearby bush. Okay, I think. There's a whole bunch of cats living in my neighborhood, so I don't think anything of it. The cat wasn't focused on me anyway. The cat passed by me very quickly. Usually cats come up to me for a pet, and they're all lovely and have been lovely since the beginning. Cats are literally the best, and I will always pet them even though I'm heavily allergic, so I can't have one in my house, which made me look after it. Where's my hug-at type of reaction? Imagine my shock when I see a whole bunch of cats surround this fake man in a circle formation. Literally, what is going on? Suddenly, the guy starts screeching. Very loud, animalistic, kind of demon scream. Never heard anything like that before, and I just knew it wasn't going to be nice. The cat's circle tightened around him, and I was literally frozen in place, heart beating out of my chest, eyes wide, cold sweat down my back. One of the cats turned their head and looked straight into my soul, and suddenly a weird calmness came around. I went straight back home, took a shower, and went to bed. I slept like a baby for the first time in weeks that night. I appreciate cats even more now, and I always say hi to them when I see them. Sorry if that was all over the place. English is not my first language, and I feel a lot of feelings right now. I have some more stories in the brain vault if you want, I can send them too. Please. Oh my God. For some reason, I was getting major, like, the Cat Returns energy from that. The Cat Returns Horror Edition. That's spooky. I need the lore. Is there, like, a Polish, like, folklore about, like, the fake-looking men? Is it like an Uncanny Valley mimic situation? I need to know. I need to know. Anyway, that is all for this story. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.